Good afternoon. My name is Dr. Randal Collins, and I'm the Emergency Management Coordinator for the City of El Segundo. I will be facilitating today's virtual town hall meeting. It is an unfortunate circumstances that has brought us together today, and our thoughts and prayers are with all those affected by COVID-19, whether it be from an illness, a financial challenge, or the loss of a loved one. We know this is a challenging time, and rest assured the City of El Segundo seeks to provide you with the best information regarding this incident, and today we have a panel of community leaders specially selected to address your questions and concerns. With me today on this panel is Mayor Pro Tem Chris Pimentel, Council Member Lance Giroux, Fire Chief Chris Donovan, Police Chief Bill Whalen, and El Segundo All Hazards Incident Management Team's Incident Commander Jeff Leyman. This panel will be answering questions from residents who have submitted the questions over the past 72 hours. We hope that you will find the answers helpful and informative. I would like to introduce each of the panelists and allow them to introduce themselves, starting with Mayor Pro Tem Chris Pimentel.
How do you do? This is Chris Pimentel. As Dr. Collins said, I'm the Mayor Pro Tem. I'm delighted to be able to bring some clarity for what some of the state and county guidelines, as well as City of Los Angeles guidelines, do or do not do as they pertain to us, and how the city is working to bring different services online or necessarily keeps them closed for the duration. So thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next is Council Member Lance Giroux.
Hi, everyone. Lance Giroux. I'm council member for the last 2 whole weeks, so it's an interesting time to come into this term. But good afternoon, everybody. I know there are a lot of questions and concerns out there, and I hope that we can help to answer at least some of these today. I appreciate how well our city has responded to this situation, and by that I mean not just the emergency response teams, but also the residents as well as the business owners who are being hit the hardest of all during this pandemic. I am now looking forward to our pivot from response to recovery and reopening of our city and the economy in the coming weeks. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And the next, our Fire Chief, Chris Donovan.
Hi, good afternoon, El Segundo, and thank you for this opportunity to answer your questions related to COVID-19. I'm proud to continue to announce that the El Segundo Fire Department is fully staffed, equipped, and ready to respond to any emergency in our community. That has been the case throughout this entire pandemic. I'd like to take a quick moment and thank our first responders, the police, fire, public works employees, and all city employees for their hard work and effort, but particularly to the firefighters and paramedics that continue to provide exceptional service to our community, placing the community's needs above all else. So thank you, El Segundo.
Thank you, Chief. And then next, Police Chief Bill Whalen.
Good afternoon, El Segundo. Bill Whalen, your police chief. I'm happy to be here this afternoon answering your questions. And before we get started, I also want to echo what the fire chief said. The police department's patrol division is fully staffed, and we have very extensive plans in place should any of our employees get sick or need to be quarantined, so that we stand ready to respond to any emergency. You might have noticed a slight difference in how we respond to calls. We have pushed some of our non-priority report type calls either into an online format or over the phone. And we've really done this so that we can keep our employees safe and also so that we can keep you safe. And I would also like to thank those essential workers that are out there, and especially our men and women in the police department, 24/7, 365. They're out there ready to respond when you need them. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. And then lastly, Incident Commander Lieutenant Jeff Leyman.
Good afternoon, El Segundo. My name is Lieutenant Jeff Leyman. I'm the Incident Commander for the All Hazards Incident Management Team here in El Segundo. A couple weeks ago, we had a town hall meeting, and one of the things we pushed really hard was that people abide by the Los Angeles County stay-home order. And looking around, it sure does look like the vast majority of the El Segundo residents did that. And on behalf of everybody, essential workers that are still working, we very much appreciate that. That's how we're going to get ahead of all this. And it didn't go unnoticed, and we appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. Before we get into questions, I would like to clarify for the viewers the basics of rules and authorities within Los Angeles County as it pertains to health emergencies. We have received many questions regarding these issues and how they affect El Segundo. As most of you know, El Segundo is one of the 88 incorporated cities within Los Angeles County, where there are 3 health authorities. They are Pasadena Public Health Department, Long Beach Health Department, and the Los Angeles County Department of Public Health. El Segundo falls under the health jurisdiction of the Los Angeles County Health Department. During a pandemic such as this, the county health officer has the ultimate responsibility for defining the mitigation actions and efforts to be taken in response to the health emergency. The health officer is the single most powerful official regarding orders and restrictions, and El Segundo is subject to those orders and must adhere to all orders made by the health officer. Furthermore, the governor yields significant state powers, of which El Segundo is also subject to and compelled to abide by during the state of emergency. El Segundo works closely with both entities and evaluates all the orders and directives and determines the best way to implement such orders within our community. So without further delay, let's get into some of the community's questions. And the first question is going to go to Mayor Pro Tem Chris Pimentel. Sir, when does the city plan to reopen the Lakes Golf Course?
Well, thank you for this. The Lakes has been for 20 odd years a Touchstone Rec and Park facility. It is specifically enumerated as a non-essential function by the health order from the county. So while some parks and areas are used for passive outdoor recreation or fitness, or like streets are, this part is specifically noted as not applicable and not an essential function. So as such, as part of the county order, it remains closed. Now we anticipate these closures or the order expiring on May 15th. And in preparation for that, as we are in the recovery mode, the Rec and Parks Department is working to formulate a plan of what the order and how we will bring our different facilities. I will say that the Lakes is a bit different. While it is still under the cognizance of Rec and Parks, it is also an enterprise. So it is a business that is owned by the city in effect. So as such, bringing it on board or bringing it back online would be significantly more complicated. But that said, we are still under and is still listed as a non-essential facility. So the order in which those different Rec and Parks facilities will come online will be part of our recovery plan.
Thank you, sir. Next question will be for Councilmember Giroux. And sir, what is the plan for reopening the Aquatic Center?
Well, the city of El Segundo, as we've mentioned, falls under the LA County orders, and therefore we must comply with their directives. The current safer at home order from LA County goes through May 15th, and the order closes all non-essential businesses, which includes gyms and fitness centers. Unfortunately, the Aquatic Center falls into this category as well. When the order is lifted or modified, the city will evaluate the possibility of opening the Aquatic Center and what the proper timing would be for this. This particular situation is near and dear to my heart, as most of you know me. My son is a water polo player and is dying to get back into this pool, so I feel your pain. And I'm hoping that the good news on this front happens sooner rather than later. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next question is for Fire Chief Donovan. Sir, what is an antibody test and what are the benefits of getting one?
Yeah, thanks, Randy. Probably many members of our community have been reading about or hearing about testing on TV, radio, newspaper, and the like. And the testing component is going to be important as we continue our response, but more importantly, as we return to our sense of normalcy. And there are 2 types of tests that are being performed. LA County with LA City in support are doing drive-through tests. Mayor Boyles talked about that this morning at his 11 o'clock briefing. And those drive-through tests are testing for the virus through nasal swab or mouth swabs. The second type of test, which is becoming more interesting in providing a lot more support for our response, is antibody testing. And the antibody test is done through a blood draw, either a finger prick or a removal of blood through the venous access. And small droplets of your blood are placed onto a plastic medical device, and a solution is added to that. And within 10 minutes of that process, you could determine whether you have antibodies in your system. And what that means is that you have had the coronavirus and your immune system has developed antibodies to respond to that. It's a quick test. It's relatively painless, and it gives some good results. And there are some benefits to this test. And there are two in particular that I'd like to talk about. The first benefit is peace of mind. I have spoken to many people, friends, family members, who have stated that in the last several months, they've had the flu or they felt tired, they felt run down, they've had symptoms that are similar to coronavirus, and they've stated, I'm pretty sure that I've had it. Well, this simple blood test would indeed determine whether you had it and you built up antibodies in response to that and your immune response. And so there's peace of mind because you would have had an immune response that dealt with it, but that does not mean that you're immune to the virus. The second important part of this, and where the health professionals and public health officials throughout the country are interested in antibody tests, is in what's called serological surveillance. And this is where widespread antibody testing is done throughout the United States, and it will give a clearer picture of the scope of this disease. The Center for Disease Control, or the CDC, which is leading the charge in our response from a medical and scientific surveillance, is using test results to learn more about how those that test positive, how those results, the immune system has responded to the virus. And they've also been using those test results to explore how the virus spreads among people that are exposed. And so on our go forward in the United States, in Los Angeles County, and indeed here in El Segundo, testing will become an important component. Like we've mentioned in the past, if you feel sick, you should contact your healthcare provider. If you indeed feel like you want to get a antibody test, again, you should contact your healthcare provider or go through your healthcare system or go and contact the County of Los Angeles to determine if they are giving antibody tests, because you have to be careful that the test is indeed a valid test approved by the FDA. If you're interested, there's only about 8 tests right now that have been fast-tracked, meaning they've received emergency use authorization through the FDA. You can go to the FDA website at fda.gov/medical devices/emergency use authorization, and you could see those 8 sites, or better yet, talk to your healthcare provider for testing. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief Donovan. The next question will be for Police Chief Whalen. Chief, has crime increased in El Segundo during the Safer at Home order?
Thank you, Randy. That's a question even in regular times I get asked a lot, is what is going on with crime in El Segundo? And my answer is always, we are a very safe community, but we're not without crime. And the reason I answer that way is because we do have low crime numbers. In order to say, is crime going up or down, that's a trend analysis that we need a lot of data set for, and that's typically over a period of time. That being said, I know there is a lot of interest in what is the stay-at-home order and in general this pandemic doing, or do we believe it's doing, to crime. So we have compared our March 2020 numbers to March 2019, and that resulted in an overall decrease of about 25% in our reportable crimes to the FBI. Primarily among those were the theft from vehicles and vehicle burglaries. We are still taking a look at our April numbers as compared to April 19. Because this was really the first full month of the closure of retail businesses, we expect to see a significant decrease in our shoplifting crimes, which in normal years is one of the biggest contributors to our Part 1 crimes. Along with the theft from retail establishments, you also see robberies, which are not robberies with guns. We don't really have those here in El Segundo, but what we have are robberies where they take the property through force. And that typically is when a shoplift escalates. And those also have seen a significant decrease. So I would expect that our overall April numbers will be down. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. And then our next question is for Incident Commander Leyman. Jeff, when and how can I get tested for COVID-19, and how much does it cost?
Okay, great question, Randy. Free same-day testing is available for all Los Angeles County residents. These tests are available regardless of insurance status, underlying health issues, or immigration status. There's 29 testing sites around the county. The closest to us, there's one at the Galleria in Redondo Beach, and there's one at the Forum in Inglewood. Both are about 4 to 5 miles right outside of our city. It's important to note that you can't just show up there. You need to get a reservation. The process to get a reservation can be found on our website at elsegundo.org. I did speak to a nurse that works at one of those locations, and she said they're seeing 500 people a day on the weekends, but the lines are going very quickly. They're no more than about 15 minutes long.
Great, thank you. Since nearly the beginning of the COVID-19 outbreak, one concern that has been prevalent within the community is the county operation at Dockweiler RV Park, which was designated as a place of refuge for persons who may have been exposed to COVID-19 and needed to self-isolate, but were unable to do so in their own home because either they had roommates or they lived in a congregate facility or some other reason that inhibited them from isolating at home. So I'm happy to say that as of last week, these operations have tentatively come to a close and there are no individuals housed at Dockweiler. I know that's something that's been on our community's mind. So now as we get into the next round, the next question will be for Mayor Pro Tem Pimentel. Mayor Pro Tem, why does our beach remain closed?
Well, the beach is explicitly under the control of the County of Los Angeles. You might note that when you get there, the lifeguards are not City of El Segundo lifeguards, they're LA County lifeguards. So from the high tide mark, the high water mark up, we do have a little bit of beach that is under our jurisdiction in terms of land use. But use of the beach for recreation is explicitly the control of the county. And the county has an order that orders those closed. Now, you'll note recently that the Coastal Commission has endorsed this, and the governor has been also explicit that he wants them closed. All that being said, we are incredibly sensitive to the use of the beach and how much our residents want to be back out there. I would say that moving forward, when we look in the recovery of reopening it, that's something that we really want to work with our neighbors to ensure that we do not have an attractive nuisance. We were very, very hesitant to close our parks initially, and we saw as a result of that, many of our neighbors, with their parks closed, their residents came and used ours. Now, that's not to besmirch them as bad guests, but that's not and was not the intent of keeping our parks open. So we work very, very closely through the South Bay COG, which is the Coalition of Governments, and with our region to make sure that we are formulating a plan to reopen those that allows all residents to use it in the way that we historically have, which is sort of people with their own pieces, and then things that are in line with the county guidance as we reopen. So in very, very short terms, we are sensitive to the residents' need and demand to use the beach. That's part of why we live here. But by the same token, there's only a certain element that we can control, and the parts that we do, we want to do wisely in a manner that sensibly moves forward and allows people to enjoy it safely.
Thank you, sir. The next question for Councilmember Giroux. Sir, how is it that large retailers can be open, but small retailers can't be open?
Well, another issue near and dear to my heart, as I know firsthand the difficulties that were facing the retail industry prior to this pandemic. It is also my personal business as a supplier to these retailers. That being said, the LA County Safer at Home order defines what an essential business is. It doesn't, however, distinguish between the size of the retail business. So for businesses not deemed essential, the Safer at Home order does allow them to perform minimum basic operations, which includes maintaining inventory, ensuring security, and other related functions. There is a detailed listing of the Safer at Home order requirements related to businesses that can be found on the city's website. But again, this isn't a matter of large versus small in this case. It is a question of essential versus what is deemed not essential at this time. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And the next question for Fire Chief Donovan. Chief, I heard there's going to be a second wave of the coronavirus. What does that mean, and should I be worried?
Many pandemics like COVID-19 are caused by new pathogens that the vast majority of humans have no immune protection against. And what happens is it allows a virus, oftentimes it's an influenza virus like COVID-19, to spread quickly, and it becomes a global outbreak. And these pandemics, although uncommon, the flu is the most common type, as mentioned. What often happens is this novel virus, a new virus, much like COVID-19, spreads around the world, and then it recedes, kind of like a tsunami. And a few months later, it comes back and spreads around the world or large parts of it, hence a second wave. According to Dr. Anthony Fauci, the director of the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Disease, a second wave of infection is inevitable in the United States. But, you know, we think about the actions that we have taken in response to the COVID-19 pandemic, and we have an opportunity in the United States to determine how that second wave is impactful. So if we can continue the viral spread countermeasures, such as social distancing, wearing face coverings when in public, hand washing, these are all critical steps to slow the spread during the current and the inevitable second wave of the pandemic. And it's very important to the recovery efforts as we continue testing, contact tracing of positive cases of the coronavirus, and isolation of those infected patients, and ultimately the development of treatments and vaccine that will ensure the second wave and future waves are less deadly as the first. Each of us in El Segundo play a role in keeping the second wave small.
Thank you, Chief. And then the next question will be for Police Chief Whalen. Chief, can you provide some examples of the types of scams that we should be aware of as a result of the pandemic?
Yes, so beyond the obvious, one of the unfortunate byproducts of any disaster is the influx of the criminal element that seeks to exploit those that are in a vulnerable state. And this pandemic is no different than anything else we've seen. And so the list is really endless as to what these criminals might try to do. But I would strongly caution people in a few areas. First, as the fire chief mentioned, talking about testing. There are a few tests that have been FDA approved. There are some with special approval, but many of these things have been rapidly brought to the market. Be cautious when you are asked to pay for anything, including testing. That's not to say that it's a scam, but it could be. So you need to do your research if you are looking to get one of those done and you're being asked to pay for it. Be cautious if anybody calls you on the phone asking for money for anything related to the COVID virus, whatever it might be. Be cautious about people who are saying they've got cures, vaccines, or anything like that. Make sure you're paying attention to the news and you're staying abreast of what the FDA is saying is appropriate, because people will try to sell those sorts of things to you. Be cautious if somebody calls purporting to be a family member or friend saying they're in need of something or asking you for money. Be wary of anybody that calls and for a fee will offer assistance in helping you get any of the benefits that the government now is offering. That even in normal times is a common scam that we see. What I'd like El Segundo for you to know is if you have any questions whatsoever and you think that you might be being exposed to a scam or somebody's trying to rip you off, please call us. Call us and let us know what the situation is, and we'll help you decipher it, because these are very confusing and challenging times, and we want to be as best of service as we can.
Thank you, Chief. And the next question is for Incident Commander Leyman. And Jeff, we heard a little bit about essential businesses from Councilmember Giroux. So can you tell us, elaborate a little bit more about what is considered an essential business?
Yeah, Randy, you know what, I'm going to read a little bit of this right off the LA County Public Health website, because I don't want to taint it in any way. The Safer at Home Order defines essential businesses as those that provide services that are essential to the well-being of residents and are critical to public health and safety, as well as economic and national security. Simply put, we're talking about grocery stores, we're talking about service workers like plumbers and electricians, gas stations, hardware stores, banks. It's actually a really long list on the Los Angeles County Public Health website. It's almost a page and a half long with what they are. So I recommend, if people are interested in more of the details of that they go and take a look at that themselves.
Thank you, Jeff. And you can find a copy of that on www.elsegundo.org. And with that, another consistent theme in the questions that we have received is about the number of confirmed positive cases within El Segundo, of which today the number is 27. And I would like to provide a very comprehensive explanation of these numbers, their significance, and what we expect to see in the future from these numbers. First, as it relates to national numbers, each county reports positive cases to the California Department of Public Health, who in turn reports state numbers to the Centers for Disease Control, who tabulates the official national numbers. As it pertains to the local numbers, the Los Angeles County Department of Public Health is the official authority of positive cases within LA County. The LA County Department of Public Health shares with El Segundo on a daily basis the number of positive cases within El Segundo. The numbers reflect actual El Segundo residents and do not reflect any numbers of persons with COVID-19 that work here, but do not reside here. So it is simply residents. El Segundo has received repeated requests for us to share the location of the persons with COVID-19 and the locations of places they have visited or places in which they work. This information is this is information that El Segundo does not receive, and it is the policy of the Los Angeles County Department of Public Health to not provide such information to us. So we can tell you that people who have tested positive are given explicit instructions to share their diagnosis with people with whom they have had close contact while they were contagious, so that those individuals may seek testing and monitor for symptoms. Persons who have COVID-19 are instructed to self-isolate until they are no longer a contagious threat to others. Many people have shared with us their extreme concern about the growing numbers of positive cases, and we would like to address this concern. We absolutely expect the numbers to increase and to keep increasing. Our thus far successful mission of flattening the curve was never intended to eliminate the risk of COVID-19. It is to minimize a spike in quick and sudden cases, so such spike would not overwhelm our healthcare system and leave people with COVID-19 without the much needed specific medical instruments necessary to help patients fight the disease. So the fact of the matter is that COVID-19 will be present indefinitely, and with increased testing capability, we expect the number to continuously rise due to more tests being conducted. So much like the common cold or an influenza, there will always be a risk of contracting the disease until a vaccine is developed or our community builds an immunity to it. And the fact that the numbers of COVID-19 positive cases in El Segundo continues to rise is no cause for alarm, so long as the escalation, not only in El Segundo, but across the county, is a slow, manageable increase. I would like to note that both USC and Stanford have conducted recent studies that arguably indicate that the virus has been with us for much longer than previously believed, and that between 2.8% and 4.6% of adults have had the virus. This means that the number of people that are believed to have had COVID-19 are significantly higher than the number of positive confirmations being reported by the testing. So I'd just like to emphasize one more time, we fully expect that the numbers of COVID-19 cases within El Segundo to continue to increase over the days and months, and this is nothing to be alarmed about. With that, let's get into the next round of questions, starting with Mayor Pro Tem Pimentel. Sir, can the city deviate from the county's safer at home order, and does the city have any plans to do so?
Well, in short, the answer is no. No, we cannot. Under the order and under the state declaration of emergency, we have latitude to have no plans to do, but we cannot relax them out of lockstep with the county health officer. That being said, day we are in contact with the County Board of Supervisors. Every day we're in contact with the League of Cities, with the South Bay Coalition of Governments, and two other significant regional bodies to say, look, this is what it is different, or this is what our experience is in the South Bay. This is what our residents, both business and private citizens need or are calling for. And we advocate for those things and those changes and those amenities. Now, as a jurisdiction, we can set our priorities about what we choose to enforce and not enforce. And I mean that in the strictest sense of what works best for our citizens to keep them safe. And to that regard, and in that regard, we advocate for it. But the very short answer is the baseline fall into lockstep with that.
Okay, thank you, sir. And the next question for Councilmember Giroux. Sir, I'm worried about my ability to pay for utilities. Is there any assistance being provided to residents?
Well, right now, the SoCal Gas and Southern California Edison have suspended all service disconnections, meaning no customer will have their natural gas or electricity turned off due to non-payment. Additionally, they have waived late fees for both business and residential customers. Southern California Edison has postponed certain work that would require a service outage, and both businesses will continue to make safety and emergency service appointments. For any more specific questions about their services, please visit the coronavirus page on the City of El Segundo's website. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And I was just informed that we had a little bit of internet technical difficulties during the last question. So I just wanted to summarize Mayor Pro Tem Pimentel's answer in regards to, can the city deviate from the county's safer at home order? And does the city have plans to do so? And the fact of the matter is, we fall under the county jurisdiction as mentioned earlier, and we're going to follow the orders, and we would have no intention of deviating from those orders, and we're going to continue to follow the orders as the health officer has designated. Sir, anything to add there?
No, that's accurate. You know, as I said, we have our own input as a regional part of the county, but the county, what the health officer puts forth is what we are obligated to follow. So we can work to make sure that that fits and serves us, but that is the law of the land.
Thank you, sir. And the next question is for Fire Chief Donovan. Chief, I keep hearing the term herd immunity. What is it, and what relevance does it play within the pandemic?
Yeah, herd immunity is something that we're actively researching and paying more attention to, and certainly something that we want to get to as a society. According to Johns Hopkins School of Public Health, herd immunity is when most of the population is immune to an infectious disease, thus providing indirect protection, or herd immunity, also referred to as herd protection, to those who are not immune to the disease. For example, if 80% of the population is immune to a virus, 4 out of every 5 people who encounter someone with the disease won't get sick, and furthermore won't spread the disease. In this way, the spread of the infectious disease is kept under control. And if we think back over the decades, measles, mumps, polio, and chickenpox are examples of infectious diseases that were once very common, and they were spreading rapidly through the United States, and are now very rare because of vaccines, which have helped create and establish herd immunity. As with other infections, there are 2 ways to achieve herd immunity. A large portion of the population either gets infected or gets a protective vaccine. Based on early estimates of this virus, the infectiousness of this virus, the way in which it spreads, we will likely need at least 70% of the population to be immune to have herd protection. Thanks.
Thank you, Chief. That was very informative. And then the next question for Police Chief Whalen. Chief, what is the police department's policy regarding trespassing violations, public parks and playgrounds, and parking violations?
Well, we're really looking at this from a glass half full perspective. I'm an optimist, and I think that most people in El Segundo are really trying hard to abide by the rules and the new orders that have been put in place, and occasionally accidentally perhaps enter into an area that's closed or something like that. And so for that reason, our stance really is warnings for any of the violations. And in 99% of the cases so far, those have been effective. There have been a few isolated events where, despite being asked to leave a closed area, somebody did not leave, and in that case, they were issued a citation. So I think it's important for everybody to understand that these are still criminal violations, and they still can result in a citation, which potentially could be a quite expensive citation. So we really need people to adhere to the rules and listen to the officers if they're contacted. And I mentioned earlier, it's not good when our officers have to go out and contact you, because that just exposes them and you to this virus. And so try very hard to pay attention to closure signs and not do things that you're not supposed to do. Something that we're seeing a little bit of an increase now is, I guess, I don't know what the term is for it, but maybe socially distant coronavirus parties. And they're popping up on social media where people feel they can go to other person's houses while maintaining social distancing and have a get together. Look, El Segundo, I get it. We're social beings, and we want to go out and we want to interact with other people, but that's explicitly not allowed. The stay-at-home order and the current county guidelines prohibit indoor and outdoor gatherings by people that don't live in the same household. So please do us a favor, because if we find out about it on social media, we're going to come out and talk to you and ask you not to do it. And it would be best for all involved if that doesn't happen. So just hang in there. We're going to get through this soon, and we need your help with that. In regards to parking citations, when the stay-at-home order first happened, I suspended enforcement of the street sweeping violation and the 72-hour parking enforcement. And really that was for a couple reasons. One, we understand that there are many people right now suffering financial hardships, and we didn't want to be put in a position where we would have to add to that. And secondarily, we're asking you to stay at home, and then at the same time telling you got to get out and move your car around. And we just didn't think that made sense. So those are suspended for now, but all other parking regulations are in full force. Red zone violations, handicap violations, something that we've seen in, especially on our western part of town, is people parking and blocking driveways. All of those will result in a fine and potentially the impounding of your vehicle. Now, I am getting asked, when are we going to start enforcing the street sweeping and those things again? And that's going to be a measured approach, likely not until the bulk of the stay-at-home order is lifted. And then we will probably start with warnings before we go back into issuing citations again. But El Segundo, you have to remember that the reason we have this is because cleaning the streets is what keeps our community beautiful. And right now we really have the inability to do that. And I would ask, even though we're not writing the tickets, if you can on your street sweeping days, move your car, because the street sweeper's still going by. And it reminds me of growing up on the East Coast where a snowplow goes down the road and all you can see is the lane where the plow went. We don't want to get to that here in El Segundo, where everything's just kicked to the curb because of what we're doing. So if you can, move your cars. You guys know when the street sweeping days are. It's on the signs if you're not familiar with it in your neighborhoods. And then you'll hear from me directly when we're getting ready to start reinforcing those provisions.
Thank you so much, Chief. Next question for Incident Commander Leyman. Jeff, what services are available for senior citizens?
Okay, we're doing a lot for our seniors. We're continuing to do a lot. The wonderful people from the Rotary Club are doing a grocery and medication delivery. The El Segundo Library on Mondays, if you give them a call and pick a book, they'll deliver books to your homes. Dr. Dial-A-Ride is available every weekday from 9 a.m. till 3 p.m. That takes seniors to their doctor's appointments. We'll go as far north as Marina Del Rey and as far south as Torrance. Meals on Wheels is still happening for homebound residents. And then at Park Vista, everything is still the same. We're still doing a lot at Park Vista. We still have a registered nurse on site Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 9 a.m. till 1 p.m. Just to check on the residents if they're feeling anything, feeling any anxiety, want to get their vitals checked. This is not a replacement for 911, but they're there just to give that comfort level. And Randy, if you don't mind, I'm gonna throw out a couple of phone numbers for everybody. The phone numbers for the food and medical delivery, the Dr. Dial-A-Ride, and the Meals on Wheels, and for folks at Park Vista is 310-524-2705. And the number for the library is 310-524-2722. So those are numbers you call if you are interested in one of those programs.
Thanks, Jeff. Sounds like the incident management team is doing a fantastic job with helping our citizens, our senior citizens. And with that, we have received several questions about our all hazards incident management team. We would like to share the significance of this resource with you. 3 years ago, city leaders made the conscious decision to build the all hazards incident management team. This was a significant and deliberate decision that did not come lightly, and it included a commitment of money, training, time, and equipment. And in fact, El Segundo is arguably the smallest jurisdiction in the country to own such a team. The city leaders made this decision because, well, as change agents and innovators in the field of public safety, they recognized that such a team would provide the greatest level of preparedness, organization, and leadership during times of crisis. So other cities that are considered aggressive when it comes to the development of their emergency operations center personnel may require an average of about 92 training hours and may exercise their emergency operations plan annually. Our team members average 142 hours of advanced training. They conduct exercises and team trainings as well as individual trainings. And our program doesn't stop there. We have mandated a performance-based system, which means after training is completed, members of the team must demonstrate under realistic conditions their ability to complete the essential tasks of their position before they become actually qualified in that position. It is a team like this that allows members from across the country to come to our aid and fit seamlessly into our operations, such as the case with our public information officers currently working with our team who flew in from Wisconsin. So they have gone through identical training because they are on teams in their home state and have effortlessly become a part of our team. Similarly, this week, we sent some of our members to participate with the Orange County All Hazards Incident Management Team to exchange ideas and concepts to see what they're doing versus what we're doing. And our members quickly assimilated right into their operation during the tour with Orange County because of the standardized training and performance-based expectations for all hazard incident management teams. As a professional emergency manager with over 20 years of experience in disaster response, I can honestly say that I have never observed a community embrace this concept, fund it, and dedicate the time and resources to developing such a team in a community this size. The city leaders definitely prioritized emergency preparedness and supported it as a necessary component to making El Segundo a safe and resilient community. So kudos to them, and I'm really proud to be a part of that. With that, we'll move into the next round of questions, starting off with Mayor Pro Tem Pimentel. Sir, do you think the 4th of July fireworks show at Rec Park will be canceled this year?
Well, all events and all gatherings in the county require a great deal of coordination. And right now, our Rec and Parks Department and our staff are working with them sequentially through the calendar to see what's doable and what isn't. Things like the Hometown Fair, Elderfest, those have already been canceled. So I would urge residents to keep checking the calendars on our website. We update them consistently and often to try and provide some clarity on this. I will say, given the proximity to the closure, 2 months out at July 4th from May 15th, it's pretty tight. And given what we're seeing about guidance on gatherings, I would like to say we hope not, but part of me is cautiously pessimistic on it. So it's a bit far out, and events are changing too quickly for us to say with any certainty. But we're certainly in close coordination. We're very, very sensitive to all of the services that any sort of gatherings require, whether it's cleanings or hygiene or keeping distance. So it'll be close. I'm cautiously pessimistic, and certainly like everyone else, we're never happy to cancel things the community values.
Randy, you're muted.
Thank you, sir. I thought I got backwards there. So I was just encouraging people to stay tuned to the calendar at the Rec and Parks website. But the next question for Councilmember Giroux. Sir, can I be evicted during the pandemic?
California Governor Gavin Newsom issued an executive order banning the enforcement of eviction orders for renters affected by COVID-19 through May 31st. Los Angeles County also has an order that bans evictions for residential and commercial tenants. However, the order does require tenants to declare in writing no more than 7 days after your rent is due that the tenant cannot pay all or part of their rent due to COVID-19. Additionally, the tenant is required to repay past due rent in a timely manner and could still face eviction after the moratorium period ends. Specific details regarding either of these moratoriums are available on the city's website, and I urge you to check it and make sure that you are informed on what the rules are and what your rights are. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Next question for Fire Chief Donovan. Chief, when are face coverings required, and what are the benefits? What are the best practices of taking the face coverings on and off?
Randy, I want to first start by saying thank you to El Segundo residents. Anecdotally looking out in our community, I'm seeing a vast majority of our residents that are out and about with their essential business wearing face coverings, and that's what's going to help each other and help slow the spread of this virus. So directly to your question, per the LA County Health Officer's order, the Safer at Home order, face coverings are required to be provided by employers to all employees of those essential services that come into contact with each other or in contact with the public. In addition, the Safer at Home order strongly encourages the community to wear face coverings if they are indeed out and about doing essential business. And so the wearing of the face covering is becoming more normalized. It's part of our community outings now, and we're seeing the El Segundo residents abiding by that. And I want to again thank you El Segundo for helping with that. In terms of things that you should do prior to and after, or prior to putting on and taking off the mask, is simple hygiene. If you can wash your hands or use a hand sanitizer prior to putting your face covering on, and then also do that same routine where you wash your hands or use a hand sanitizer prior to taking the face mask off, you'll further reduce the spread of the virus. And remember, when wearing the face covers, it doesn't prevent you from getting coronavirus. It prevents you from shedding that virus and giving it to someone else. So you could be infected with coronavirus. You could be asymptomatic, meaning you don't have symptoms, and you're shedding the virus through coughing, sneezing, or talking loud. And the face covering prevents that shedding of the virus towards others. So wash your hands thoroughly before putting the mask on and before taking it off. And then if you could, wash those cloth masks regularly, once a day if possible, in hot water, and then drying it in a hot cycle in the dryer. If you're using a surgical mask or other means of face covers, pay attention to if they need to be discarded, looking for if it no longer covers your nose and mouth, or if you have stretched out or damaged ties or straps, or if the face covering can't stay on your face any longer, or certainly if you have holes or tears in the fabric, you should discard them. And so face covers are important. They're going to continue to be important. It's critical that we take care of each other, and wearing the face covering does take care of our neighbors and our family members when out and about. More for those that we come in contact. And I want to again thank El Segundo for their support of this measure.
Thanks, Chief. Next question for Incident Commander Leyman. And earlier, I talked a lot about the numbers, and this question is about the numbers that are reported by the incident management team. Jeff, when you report the numbers every day, what does the number with the plus sign in the parentheses mean?
Yeah, there's definitely some confusion with that number. I was a little confused about it myself in the beginning. So that number represents additional COVID positive cases in the last daily reporting period for Los Angeles County. So it might give you the idea in the last 24 hours that number represents the amount of people that tested positive. That is not the case. That is just how many that the Los Angeles County Public Health is reporting to everybody, the results that they got back in that 24 hours. So for example, about a week and a half ago, we had a +4 jump on our report from one day to the next. And that's because one of the labs that the county is using had a backlog of 4 days. So they released 4 days worth of testing to the county. County added all those to the daily report. And it looked like a big jump, but it was actually 4 days worth. So I understand the confusion. I was confused about that too. Thanks, Randy.
Thanks, Jeff. And the next question for Fire Chief Donovan. Chief, is there a plan to assist businesses with reopening and economic recovery?
Randy, this is a really important part of our approach now. And in the beginning of this event, Councilmember Giroux talked about the city pivoting from a response to recovery efforts, and he's indeed correct. We have been working through the incident management team with the city manager, Scott Mitnick, deputy city manager, Barbara Voss, and the executive team in changing our focus and pivoting and doing just that. And we're going from response to recovery. And that doesn't mean that in the response, police and fire will still be responding to calls, and our public works members will be out in a response mode. And we're certainly going to continue our focus with Park Vista and those other key portions of our attributes of effectiveness in our response to COVID-19. But we really need to start thinking about how we recover from this and the next phase of what our return to normal looks like. And so we have identified 4 main pillars of our recovery. Those include city facilities and programs. And so, for instance, how we approach the opening of beaches and parks and playgrounds and ball fields is part of the recovery plan. How the programs that go along with all of those, the 4th of July, the other events in the community is part of our recovery efforts. And so we'll be focusing on that. We're looking at a second pillar of city operations. So for instance, our workforce management, as we have our employees that are currently teleworking, getting back into City Hall, how we manage that, and certainly our workplace practices. A third pillar is related to the business economic recovery, and I'll speak of that in a moment. That's the question at hand. And then lastly, we're talking about our community recovery and how we help our community health and wellness of all of our residents as we recover from COVID-19. As it relates to the question of assisting businesses with reopening and economic recovery, I'm proud to report that our Deputy City Manager, Barbara Voss, and our Economic Development Coordinator, Christina Revelis, had established the El Segundo Business Economic Recovery Task Force, comprised of key business leaders who will help provide assistance to our local recovery. And in fact, that group yesterday met via Zoom, and the task force provided some outstanding feedback to our key staff members that will be instrumental in helping our recovery efforts. And some of those actions that this task force will look to accomplish in the coming weeks and months is how do we as a city collaborate with our local businesses in support of the return to business, and how do we turn the open for business light on, if you will. Information sharing with businesses in the business community about what might be needed to reopen in compliance with modifications and adaptations to the current stay at home or safer at home county order. A sharing of best practices from a business to business approach, and certainly things that the city can do as it relates to potentially training opportunities for business owners or employees is our focus. And so, here's the reality is the City of El Segundo is not a regulatory agency as it relates to determining what businesses will need to do to reopen. That will be determined through a modified LA County health order as that becomes amended. But the city, we are interested in active partners And we are going to work hard to assist our local businesses in determining how best to reopen. We see that supporting the business economic recovery as an important task, and we stand ready to support our recovery efforts from COVID-19. And we look forward to working hard, shoulder to shoulder with our local economy to come back to our sense of normal.
Thanks, Chief. I appreciate the information. And for all of our panelists, really appreciate your willingness to lead and your willingness to share the information with us. I would like to personally invite you to sign up for the various notifications El Segundo offers to stay informed about COVID-19 and other emergencies that may occur. Please go to www.alertsouthbay.com and sign up for emergency and non-emergency alerts. You can also find that link on our El Segundo website. You can also text 90245, our zip code, to 888-777 for COVID-19 specific information. And then also sign up for a daily update at elsegundo.org. I would also encourage you while at home to have El Segundo TV on Spectrum Channel 3 or 22 and on AT&T Universe Channel 99. Have that running in the background of your home where we provided numerous COVID-19 related public service announcements to keep you informed. It's a lot of great information that's going on there. And lastly, the city has activated a joint information center. You can call us at 310-692-1699 from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. Again, that's 310-692-1699, and we will track down the information to any of your questions. On behalf of the City of El Segundo, I thank you for watching and know that we will be relentless in our pursuit of keeping you safe, healthy, informed, and cared for. Thank you very much.